Zara stared out the viewport as the Viridian diplomatic ship entered Earth's atmosphere. The blue planet grew larger, its swirling clouds and vast oceans coming into view. Her silver-blue hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her ceremonial uniform. This mission would determine not just her future, but the future of her entire species. "Commander Zara, we will land at the human military base in 10 minutes, said Captain Vex, her pilot. "The welcoming committee awaits." Zara nodded. "Thank you, Captain." She tried to calm her racing heart. The Viridians, once a proud and powerful race spanning 3 star systems, now faced extinction. Their genetic code had degraded over centuries of selective breeding. The birth rate had fallen to nearly 0 in the past decade. Without help, her people would disappear within a generation. And the help, ironically, would come from humans. Earth had only joined the Galactic Federation 30 years ago. Most advanced species considered humans primitive, violent, and unpredictable. But human DNA contained something unique, genetic adaptability and resilience that Viridian scientists believed could save their race. The diplomatic words used were genetic exchange program. The reality was breeding. Zara, as a high-ranking military scientist with exceptional genetic markers, had been ordered to participate. The thought made her stomach clench. The ship landed with a gentle thud. Zara gathered her courage and moved toward the airlock. The gravity felt stronger here than on the Viridian homeworld. Every step felt heavy, like her doubts. The airlock hissed open. Bright sunlight flooded in, along with dry, hot air that made her skin tingle uncomfortably. Arizona. They called this region. The Joint Species Military Base stretched before her, a sprawling complex of buildings, training grounds, and environmental habitats for different alien species. A line of humans in formal military dress stood at attention. Zara studied them warily. They looked so soft. No scales, no protective outer layers, just fragile skin in various shades of tan and brown. Their eyes were small, their bodies lacking the elegant height of Viridians. Yet these creatures had survived wars, plagues, and environmental disasters that would have destroyed many advanced species. An older human female with short gray hair stepped forward. "Commander Zara, welcome to Earth. I am Admiral Pearson. We're honored to host the Viridian delegation." Zara performed the formal Viridian greeting, placing her right hand over her chest. "The honor is ours, Admiral. The Viridian High Council sends their deepest gratitude for Earth's participation in our conservation efforts." Admiral Pearson nodded and gestured to a tall human male standing beside her. "This is Lieutenant Daniel Wright. He'll be your liaison during your stay." Lieutenant Wright has been fully briefed on Viridian customs and biology. The human male stepped forward and performed a perfect Viridian greeting, surprising Zara. His movements were precise, respectful. He had light brown skin and dark eyes that met hers directly. Unusual, as most species found the reflective quality of Viridian eyes unsettling. "Commander, welcome to Earth," he said in carefully pronounced Viridian language. "I'm at your service." Zara blinked in surprise. His accent was rough, but his effort was unexpected. "You speak our language, Lieutenant." "Only basics, Commander. I've been studying for 3 months since receiving this assignment." 3 months of study just to say a greeting. Zara felt a twinge of confusion. The briefings had described humans as impatient and self-centered. As they walked toward the base headquarters, Zara noticed Daniel adjusting his pace to match hers, compensating for her discomfort with Earth's gravity. A small courtesy, but thoughtful. "The Genetic Exchange Program facilities are in the East Wing," Admiral Pearson explained. "State-of-the-art medical equipment, privacy accommodations, everything designed for optimal comfort." Zara tensed at the reminder of why she was here. She would have to select a human male for breeding soon. The scientists had assured her the process would be clinical, dignified. But the thought of intertwining her body with an alien species made her skin crawl. She glanced at Lieutenant Wright walking beside her. Would it be someone like him? The thought brought no comfort. No matter how polite, how well-trained, humans were still unpredictable, emotional creatures. She had heard stories of their violent past, their territorial nature. Yet without them, her people would perish. For the sake of Viridia, she would endure whatever came next. The next morning, Lieutenant Daniel Wright waited for Zara outside her quarters. The special living space had been adjusted to match Viridian atmospheric conditions, with higher oxygen levels and cooler temperatures. He wore his formal uniform despite the early hour. "Good morning, Commander Zora," Daniel said when she emerged. "I hope you rested well." Zora looked at him with those large, reflective eyes that seemed to change color in different lights. Today they were a pale violet. "The accommodations are adequate, Lieutenant, though your sun is very bright through the windows. I'll have the tint adjusted," Daniel said, making a note on his tablet. "Today I'll show you the base and introduce you to the other Viridian delegates." As they walked through the corridors, Zara noticed how other humans watched her with curious glances. She stood nearly a foot taller than most of them, her blue-silver skin catching the light in ways human skin did not. "Your people stare," she said stiffly. Daniel nodded. "Many haven't met Viridians before. We're still getting used to our place in the galactic community." They entered the main hub of the base, a large circular area where humans and aliens from various species moved about their duties. Zara spotted 3 other Viridians across the room and visibly relaxed. "Your colleagues arrived yesterday evening," Daniel explained. "Dr. Kelvy, Science Officer Moran, and Cultural Attaché Zorn." Zara approached the other Viridians, exchanging formal greetings. Daniel stood respectfully to the side, giving them space but remaining close enough to assist if needed. "How are your quarters, Commander?" asked Dr. Kelvy, the oldest of the group with pale, almost white skin. "Suitable," Zara replied. "The humans seem eager to accommodate our needs." Miran, a younger male with deep blue coloring, leaned closer. "Have you reviewed the candidate files yet? The genetic compatibility reports are quite thorough." Zara stiffened. "I've only just arrived." "Don't delay too long," Kelvy advised quietly. "Our fertility window is narrow. The High Council expects results within 3 months." "I am aware of my duty," Zara said coldly. Daniel pretended not to hear the conversation, but Zara noticed his ears had reddened slightly. He was embarrassed for her. The realization surprised her. Did humans have such a concept of privacy and dignity? After leaving her colleagues, Daniel guided Zara to the training areas where human soldiers practiced combat techniques. "Physical training is a core part of human military," Daniel explained. "Even with advanced weapons, we believe in maintaining physical readiness." Zara watched as men and women ran, lifted weights, and sparred with each other. Their movements were quick, efficient. What they lacked in natural strength compared to Viridians, they made up for in technique and determination. "You train males and females together?" she asked. "Yes. All soldiers train based on their role, not their gender." This was different from Viridian military, where physical training was segregated by gender due to significant biological differences. "Would you like to demonstrate some Viridian combat techniques?" Daniel asked. Cultural exchange works both ways. The invitation surprised her. "You wish to learn from me?" "Of course. Every species has developed unique approaches to combat. We can all learn from each other." Zora considered for a moment, then nodded. They entered a private training room with mats covering the floor. Daniel removed his jacket and stood in a simple black t-shirt and uniform pants. "Our techniques rely on our natural advantages," Zora explained, demonstrating a defensive stance. "Height, reach, and dermal density." Daniel mirrored her movements with unexpected precision. Though shorter and less physically imposing, his form was nearly perfect. "You learn quickly," she observed. "That's one thing humans are good at," he said with a small smile. Adaptation. For the next hour, they exchanged basic combat forms. Daniel showed her human martial arts developed over thousands of years. Zara demonstrated Viridian defensive techniques. When their session ended, Zara realized something had changed. For the first time since arriving on Earth, she had forgotten to be afraid. "Tomorrow we have a diplomatic reception," Daniel said as they left the training room. "Representatives from 7 species will attend." "Will there be discussion of the breeding program?" Zara asked tensely. Daniel shook his head. "No, it's purely diplomatic. The genetic exchange program remains private between our species." Zara felt a wave of relief. Perhaps the human understood her discomfort better than she had assumed. The diplomatic reception was held in the grand hall of the base. Soft lights glowed from the ceiling, mimicking magenta sunset. Representatives from 7 different species mingled under flags and symbols of unity. Zara stood near a wall, watching the interactions with careful eyes. Daniel approached with 2 glasses. "Non-alcoholic fruit blend," he said, offering one to her. "Our chef researched Viridian dietary preferences." Zara accepted the drink. The glass felt cool against her fingers. "You are very attentive, Lieutenant." "Just doing my job," Daniel replied. "And please, call me Daniel when we're at social events." Zara sipped the drink. It was surprisingly pleasant, sweet with a hint of tartness. "This tastes like our moonberry fruit." "That was the goal," Daniel said with a small smile. "The chef will be pleased it worked." Across the room, Dr. Kelvey was engaged in deep conversation with Admiral Pearson. Zara could tell from Kelvey's gestures that he was discussing the breeding program. "Your colleague seems eager to advance the project," Daniel observed, following her gaze. "Dr. Kelvey helped develop the genetic compatibility tests," Zara explained. "He has worked on this for 15 years. For him, it is purely scientific." "And for you?" Zara looked at Daniel, surprised by his directness. "It is my duty," she said simply. Before Daniel could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the building. Red lights flashed, and a computerized voice announced, "Security breach in Sector 7. All personnel to security stations. This is not a drill." Daniel immediately switched to soldier mode. "That's near the communications center," he said, setting down his glass. "Stay here where it's safe." "I am a military commander, Lieutenant," Zara reminded him. "Not a civilian." Daniel nodded quickly. "Of course. Follow me." They moved swiftly through corridors, filling with rushing personnel. Humans in security uniforms ran past them carrying weapons. As they turned a corner, an explosion rocked the building. The force threw them against a wall. "Are you hurt?" Daniel asked, helping Zara regain her balance. "No," she said, brushing dust from her uniform. "What is happening?" "Uncertain. Could be anti-alien extremists. We still have groups on Earth who oppose the alliance." They reached a security station where officers watched monitors showing different areas of the base. One screen showed 5 humans in black clothing planting devices on walls. "Bombs," said a security officer. "They've already detonated 2. "Evacuation status?" Daniel asked. "Underway, but the diplomatic guests are trapped in the reception hall. The extremists cut off that corridor." Daniel turned to Zara. "Commander, you should join the evacuation." "No," Zara said firmly. "My people are in danger. I will help." Daniel looked at her for a moment, then nodded. "We need to reach the diplomats. I know an alternative route through the maintenance tunnels." They collected communication devices and small weapons. Daniel led Zara to a narrow service corridor that smelled of machinery and cleaning solutions. "This way," he said, switching on a light attached to his uniform. As they moved through the dimly lit passage, Zara spoke. "These extremists, they target all aliens." "Yes," Daniel replied grimly. "They believe Earth should stand alone, that contact with other species threatens human identity. My people had similar groups when we first joined the Galactic Federation," Zara said. "Fear of difference seems universal." They reached a junction when another explosion shook the building. Dust and concrete fell from the ceiling. Daniel reacted instantly, pushing Zara against the wall and shielding her with his body. A large piece of metal crashed where she had been standing. When the dust settled, Zara stared at Daniel in surprise. "You protected me." Daniel stepped back, looking slightly embarrassed. "Instinct. You could have been injured." "Part of the job," he said, checking his communication device. "We need to keep moving." "The reception hall is just ahead." As they continued, Zara watched Daniel with new eyes. He had risked his safety for hers without hesitation. It contradicted everything she had been told about humans being selfish and self-preserving. Perhaps there was more to learn about humans than she had thought. They reached the reception hall through a service entrance. Inside, diplomats from various species huddled together in small groups. Admiral Pearson was organizing humans to secure the doors, while Dr. Kelvey attended to a wounded Centaurian ambassador. "Lieutenant Wright," Admiral Pearson said with obvious relief. "Good to see you." "And Commander Zora." "What's the situation?" Daniel asked. "5 attackers that we know of. They've planted explosives to block the main exits. Security teams are working to neutralize them, but it will take time." Zora moved to check on her fellow Viridians. Miran had a minor cut on his arm, and Zorn looked shaken but unharmed. "The humans are handling this efficiently," Miran noted. "Better than expected." "Lieutenant Wright believes they are anti-alien extremists," Zara told them. Zorn frowned. "Then we are the targets. This proves what our security briefings warned about humans. They are unpredictable and dangerous." Zora found herself feeling defensive. "Some humans. Not all. Those defending us are also human." Daniel approached their group. "Commander, we're setting up a defensive perimeter. Admiral Pearson asked if you would assist with planning, given your military experience." Zara nodded and followed him to where the Admiral stood with a small team. "Commander," Admiral Pearson said, "your combat expertise would be valuable. Our sensors show 3 attackers moving toward this position. My suggestion is to create a diversion," Zara said, studying the room layout on a tablet. "Draw them to one entrance while evacuating through another." "Agreed," the Admiral said. "Lieutenant, take a team and set up the diversion. Commander Zara and I will organize the evacuation route." For the next 20 minutes, they worked side by side. Zara was impressed by the discipline of the human soldiers. Despite the danger, they remained calm and focused. The Admiral listened to her suggestions without question, treating her as an equal. Daniel returned from setting charges that would create noise and smoke, but cause no real damage. "Diversion is ready, Admiral. We can trigger it remotely." "Good work," Admiral Pearson said. "Begin moving the diplomats to the evacuation point." As they guided the various aliens toward a service elevator, Daniel stayed close to Zora. She noticed a small cut on his forehead. "You're injured," she said. He touched the wound briefly. "It's nothing. Caught some debris earlier." "Let me," Zara said, reaching into a pocket of her uniform. She removed a small metal device and pressed it against his cut. It hummed softly, and the wound sealed instantly. Daniel blinked in surprise. "Thank you. Viridian medical technology. Basic field treatment," she explained. "All our officers carry them." A sudden explosion rattled the room. The diversion had been triggered. Shouting came from the far corridor. "Move now," Admiral Pearson ordered. They quickly guided the diplomats into the service elevator in small groups. Zara helped a limping Centaurian, supporting his weight easily with her superior strength. When most of the diplomats were evacuated, gunfire erupted near the main entrance. 2 attackers had discovered their plan. "Get the last group out," Daniel told Zara. "We'll hold them off." "I'm staying," Zara said firmly. "I am a soldier too." Daniel didn't argue. He handed her a human weapon. "Know how to use this." She examined it quickly. Similar enough to ours. They took cover behind overturned tables as the attackers entered the room. Zara was surprised by how calmly Daniel handled the situation, coordinating with other soldiers using hand signals. When he fired his weapon, his aim was precise. Disabling, not killing. The firefight lasted only minutes before base security forces arrived from another entrance, surrounding the attackers. The extremists surrendered, realizing they were outnumbered. As the situation stabilized, Zara found herself standing next to Daniel among the wreckage of the reception. "Your people handled this well," she said. "We've had practice with extremists," Daniel replied. "Unfortunately." "You aimed to wound, not kill," Zara observed. Daniel nodded. "They'll face justice. Killing is a last resort." This contradicted everything in the Viridian briefings about humans being violent and bloodthirsty. Zara had been taught that humans solved problems with destruction, yet she had just witnessed remarkable restraint. Perhaps, she thought, the breeding program wasn't as frightening as she had believed. 3 days after the attack, the base returned to normal operations. Security had been increased, with more guards and stricter access protocols. Zara sat in her quarters reviewing files on her tablet. The Viridian High Command had sent a message demanding progress on the breeding program. A soft chime indicated someone at her door. "Enter," she called. Daniel walked in, carrying a small package. "Good morning, Commander. I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Not at all," Zara said, setting aside her tablet. "What brings you here?" "I wanted to thank you for your help during the crisis," he said, "and for healing my injury." He placed the package on her desk. "It's a small gift. Nothing important." Zara opened it carefully. Inside was a small plant with delicate blue flowers in a ceramic pot. "What is this?" "Desert bluebells," Daniel explained. "Native to this region. They survive in harsh conditions, bloom when you least expect it. Reminded me of Viridians, in a way." Zara touched one of the soft petals. No one had ever given her a gift like this before. "Thank you, Lieutenant." "Daniel," he reminded her with a small smile. "When we're not on duty." "Daniel," she repeated. The human name felt strange on her tongue. "Admiral Pearson asked me to inform you that the security review is complete. The extremists were working alone, not part of a larger group." Zara nodded. "That is reassuring." Daniel hesitated, then asked, "Would you join me for dinner tonight? In the officers' mess. It might help you meet more of our personnel in a relaxed setting." Zara felt an unexpected nervousness. "Is this part of the breeding program?" Daniel's face flushed red. "No, absolutely not. Just cultural exchange, professional interaction." His embarrassment was oddly endearing. "Then I accept," she said. That evening, Zara changed into a less formal uniform before meeting Daniel. The officers' mess was a large room with tables of various sizes. Humans sat in groups, talking and eating together. Some laughed loudly. Others spoke in serious tones. Daniel waved from a table in the corner. As Zara approached, she noticed 3 other humans with him, 2 males and 1 female. "Commander Zara, these are some of my colleagues," Daniel said. "Captain Olivia Reed, Sergeant Frank Mason, and Lieutenant Ben Cole." The humans greeted her politely. Their curiosity was obvious, but not uncomfortable. "We heard how you helped during the attack," Olivia said. "Nice work with the evacuation plan." "Thank you," Zara replied. "Your soldiers performed admirably under pressure." Food arrived at their table, special dishes prepared for Zara's Viridian dietary needs alongside human meals. The conversation flowed surprisingly easily. The humans asked about Viridian culture, military structure, and daily life. In turn, Zara found herself curious about Earth customs. "So you have families?" she asked. "Military personnel are allowed to maintain family units." "Of course," Frank said. "I have 2 kids, 6 and 8 years old. Our military is part of our lives, not our entire lives," Olivia explained. "We believe having connections makes us better soldiers, gives us something to fight for." This was different from Viridian military, where personal attachments were discouraged as distractions from duty. As dinner continued, Zara became aware of something unexpected. She was enjoying herself. The humans' informal style, their jokes and stories, were refreshing after the rigid protocols of Viridian society. Later, Daniel walked her back to her quarters. "I hope you enjoyed the evening," he said. "I did," Zora admitted. "Your colleagues are not what I expected." "How so?" "They're more complex, more thoughtful. Our briefings about humans focused on your species' warlike history, your emotional instability." Daniel laughed softly. "We do have a complicated past, but we learn and grow." They reached her door and stopped. In the dim corridor light, Daniel's eyes looked darker, warmer. "Tomorrow we have training exercises," he said. "Would you like to observe? Maybe participate?" "Yes," Zora said, surprising herself with her eagerness. "I would like that very much." She entered her quarters and looked at the small blue flowers on her desk. The breeding program loomed in her future, but somehow it seemed less frightening now. A week later, Zara received an urgent message from the Viridian High Command. She sat alone in the small communication room, watching the stern face of Commander Lux on the screen. "Your progress report is overdue, Commander Zara," Lux said. "Have you selected a human for the breeding program?" Zara straightened her posture. "I am still evaluating candidates, Commander. I want to ensure the best possible genetic match." Lux's expression hardened. "You have had sufficient time. The fertility specialists are waiting. Need I remind you of what is at stake?" "No, Commander," Zara said. "I understand my duty. Select a human within 3 days. That is an order." The screen went black. Zara sat motionless, a familiar dread settling in her stomach. For the past week, she had pushed thoughts of the breeding program aside, focusing instead on her daily interactions with Daniel and other humans. She left the communication room and found Daniel waiting in the hallway. "Bad news?" he asked, noticing her expression. "A reminder of why I am here," Zara replied. "My superiors are impatient for results." Daniel nodded, understanding in his eyes. "The training exercise is about to begin, if you still want to watch." "Yes," she said, grateful for the distraction. They walked together to the outdoor training area. The day was cooler than usual, with clouds blocking the harsh sun. Human soldiers in combat gear moved through an obstacle course, climbing walls, crossing narrow bridges, and navigating tunnels. "This simulates urban combat situations," Daniel explained. "Speed and precision are essential." Zara watched with interest. Despite their physical limitations compared to Viridians, the humans showed remarkable agility and teamwork. "Would you like to try?" Daniel asked. Zara hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I would." Daniel provided her with lightweight human combat gear. It felt strange against her skin, less flexible than Viridian uniforms. "Just follow my lead," he said as they approached the starting point. The course was more challenging than it appeared. Earth's gravity made jumping more difficult for Zara. Sections designed for shorter humans required her to bend awkwardly. Yet she persisted, determined not to show weakness. Daniel stayed close, offering advice but never making her feel inferior. When they reached a tall wall with rope handholds, he demonstrated the climbing technique. "Use your legs more than your arms," he advised. "Conserve strength." Zara followed his example, finding a rhythm that worked with her different body structure. They completed the course together, Zara's natural strength balancing Daniel's familiarity with the obstacles. Afterward, they sat on a bench, drinking water. Other human soldiers nodded respectfully as they passed. "You did well," Daniel said. "Better than most first-timers." "Your course is designed for human bodies," Zara noted. "I had to adapt." "That's what humans do best," Daniel said. "Adapt to challenges. It's how we survived before we had advanced technology." Zara was quiet for a moment. "Daniel, may I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "What do you think of the breeding program? Honestly." Daniel took a deep breath. "Honestly, I understand its importance for your species. I respect the science behind it. He paused. But I don't agree with forcing anyone to participate, human or Viridian. What would you suggest instead? Zora asked. Voluntary participation. Partners who choose each other based on more than genetic compatibility. His words resonated with something deep inside her. Choice. Respect. Partnership. I received orders today, Zora said quietly. I must select a human within 3 days. Daniel's expression remained neutral, but she noticed his hands tighten slightly around his water bottle. I see. The files I've been given. They contain genetic information, medical histories, psychological profiles, but nothing about who these humans really are. What would you want to know? Daniel asked. Zora looked at him directly. Whether they see Viridians as equals or merely as a means to advance human standing in the galactic community. Whether they understand the meaning of partnership across species boundaries. Daniel met her gaze. Those are good questions, Zora. The way he said her name, without her title, felt intimate. For the first time, Zora allowed herself to acknowledge the connection growing between them. The next morning, Zora requested access to the classified files on the breeding program. Something about her conversation with Daniel had sparked questions she couldn't ignore. If she had to select a partner in 2 days, she wanted to understand exactly what she was participating in. Dr. Kelvy met her in the secure data room. Commander, I'm pleased you're finally taking this seriously, he said, activating a large screen on the wall. I've prepared the final candidate list based on genetic compatibility. 5 human male profiles appeared on the screen with detailed biological data. Zara scanned the information, then asked, what happens after conception? The embryo will be monitored closely, Dr. Kelvy explained. If successful, it will be the first viable Viridian-human hybrid. And then? Dr. Kelvy hesitated. Then we continue the program with more participants. That's not what I asked, Zara said firmly. What happens to the child? It will be raised in Viridian facilities, of course. The biological capabilities must be studied thoroughly. Zara felt cold. The child will be a test subject, not a person with rights. Commander, this is greater than any individual, Dr. Kelvy said. The future of our species is not worth sacrificing our principles, Zara interrupted. Does the human side know these details? They know what they need to know, Dr. Kelvy said dismissively. Admiral Pearson signed the agreements. Zora accessed the official agreement on her tablet. As she read deeper into the file, she discovered something disturbing. The agreement specified medical supervision of resulting offspring, but contained no guarantees of ethical treatment or rights. This isn't right, she said quietly. Your personal feelings are irrelevant, Dr. Kelvy said. You have your orders. After leaving the data room, Zora walked the base corridors, her mind troubled. She had been prepared to do her duty, despite her fears. But this wasn't what she had signed up for. She found Daniel in the training facility, working with a group of new human recruits. He noticed her immediately and excused himself. You look upset, he said as they moved to a quiet corner. I accessed the complete breeding program files, she told him. There's information being withheld from both sides. Daniel frowned. What kind of information? Any children born would be raised in Viridian facilities as research subjects, she explained. And I suspect your leaders haven't been told everything either. That can't be right, Daniel said. The agreement Admiral Pearson signed is deliberately vague on key points, Zora finished. I believe some in my government are more interested in the military applications of human Viridian hybrids than saving our species. Daniel's expression darkened. We need to bring this to the Admiral. If I challenge this officially, I'll be recalled immediately, Zora said. But I cannot in good conscience select a partner knowing what I know now. Daniel was quiet for a moment. There might be another way, he finally said. A way to honor the spirit of cooperation between our species without compromising ethics. What do you mean? What if we created our own proposal? A revised agreement that protects any children born and ensures transparency on both sides. My superiors would never accept it, Zara said. Not at first, Daniel agreed. But if we get support from moderates on both sides, build a coalition. It would be challenging my direct orders, Zara said. Sometimes doing the right thing means standing up to authority, Daniel replied. Isn't that true on your world too? Zara thought about it. Her entire life had been defined by duty and obedience. The idea of challenging her superiors was frightening. Yet the alternative, participating in something she now believed was wrong, seemed worse. If we do this, she said slowly, we would need to work quickly. I have less than 2 days before I must report my selection. Daniel reached out hesitantly, then took her hand. His skin felt warm against hers. You won't face this alone, Zara. I promise. For the first time since arriving on Earth, Zara felt something stronger than fear, trust, and perhaps something more. The next day passed in a blur of activity. Daniel and Zara worked tirelessly, meeting with sympathetic officials from both sides. Olivia helped arrange a private meeting with Admiral Pearson, who was disturbed to learn about the missing details in the agreement. I never would have signed if I'd known, the Admiral said, reviewing their evidence. This isn't what we agreed to. By evening, they had drafted a new proposal. It guaranteed rights for any children born from the program. It required transparent reporting to both governments. Most importantly, it transformed the program from mandatory to voluntary. As night fell, Zara received another message from Commander Lox. Your time is up, Commander. Submit your selection immediately. Zara didn't respond. Instead, she met Daniel in the garden area of the base. The desert night was cool, stars bright overhead. They sat on a bench near a small fountain, the sound of water masking their conversation from possible listeners. Admiral Pearson will present our proposal tomorrow, Daniel said. She believes she can get support from the Earth Council. And I may be recalled, or worse, Zara said quietly. Daniel looked at her. Are you afraid? Yes, she admitted, but not of the consequences. I'm afraid our work won't be enough. That my people will continue down this path. We've done what we can, Daniel said. Sometimes that has to be enough. They sat in silence for a moment, shoulders almost touching. The desert bluebells Daniel had given her weeks ago were now thriving in her quarters. Like her, they had adapted to this foreign environment. There's something I need to tell you, Zara said finally. If I'm recalled tomorrow, I may not have another chance. Daniel turned to face her. What is it? I came to Earth fearing humans, fearing what the breeding program would mean. I never expected to find someone I could trust, someone I could. She hesitated, searching for the right word. Someone I could care for. Daniel's eyes widened slightly. Zara. The communication device on Zara's wrist beeped loudly. A priority message from the Viridian ship in orbit. She answered it with a sense of dread. Commander Zara, said a stern voice. You will report to the landing pad immediately for extraction. Commander Lox has arrived from Viridia. Understood, she said. The connection ended. Daniel stood up. I'm coming with you. They walked quickly to the landing pad where a Viridian shuttle had just touched down. Commander Lox emerged, flanked by 2 security officers. His pale eyes fixed on Zara with cold disapproval. Commander Zara, he said, you have failed to comply with direct orders. You will return to Viridia for disciplinary action. Zara stepped forward, standing tall. With respect, Commander, I have uncovered irregularities in the breeding program that require review by the High Council. Your concerns are noted and dismissed, Lox said flatly. Board the shuttle. She's not going anywhere, said a firm voice. Admiral Pearson approached, accompanied by several human officers and Dr. Kelvy. To Zara's surprise, the Viridian scientist looked nervous. What is the meaning of this? Lox demanded. Dr. Kelvy has confirmed Commander Zara's findings, Admiral Pearson said. He's agreed to testify before both governments about the unauthorized modifications to the program. Locke's face hardened. "This is a Viridian matter." "Not anymore," Admiral Pearson replied. "Not when it violates our agreement." For tense minutes, no one moved. Then more Viridians appeared, members of the Science Council who had been working on the base. They stood with Zora. "The Council will hear this case," said the eldest Viridian. "Commander Locke, your authority is temporarily suspended pending investigation." Locke looked stunned, then angry, but surrounded by humans and his own people standing united. He had no choice but to comply. As the confrontation ended, Daniel moved to Zora's side. "It worked," he said quietly. "This is just the beginning," she replied. "There will be resistance, negotiations." Daniel smiled, but not fear anymore. Zora looked at him, this human who had changed everything for her. "No," she said, "not fear." She reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. Viridian blue against human tan. Different, yet somehow belonging together.